online now, straight out of Moscow, the great journalist Sonia van den End. Sonia, how you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Nice to be back in your show again, Lee. How are you?
I'm good. So, is it ironic that we're talking about a terrorist designation being placed not on the country that put you on a kill list? In other words, there is a country in the world, at least one, that wants you dead. Right, Sonia? Is that fair to say? I know it's a kind of macabre, but bluntly, there's a country that wants you dead, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's Ukraine and yeah, most likely the EU too now, because you know what happened. So they designated Russia as a terrorist state. So yesterday it was actually. So yeah, it's bizarre. It's going, you know, it's unreal what is going on. They're going crazy. I don't know, but it's yeah, unprecedented. It's yeah. Actually, I always have a lot of words,
Now,
but I have no words for this craziness.
now you say they designated Russia as terrorist, but let's be specific. It's a European Parliament, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. European Parliament voted that Russia has to be designated as a terrorist state. They will not do anything right now about it. That's what they said, but they designated that it's a terrorist state. So it was adopted, I think.
Well, and I also read the European Parliament has no way to do anything about it. Designating a nation as a terror state, actually, there's no mechanism by the Parliament. Now, I don't understand who elects these people at the European Parliament.
Yeah, that's the problem. They are not really elected, you know. It's all these parties from countries, and they make a bloc, like the left bloc, the right bloc, the middle bloc, and they are not directly voted for. So they are not voted. They're just all bureaucrats making some rules there. Even the head of the EU Parliament, Ursula von der Leyen, she's not elected. And the second one, she's from Cyprus, or no, sorry, Malta. She's also not elected, so they are not elected. It's very democratic, huh? it's
Yes.
yeah.
Now I didn't have a chance to look it up, but what I know about the European Parliament is there's one woman there from Ireland, and I don't remember her name offhand, but she does great speeches. She's a bomb thrower, not literally, but every time she comes out and does a speech, it's awesome. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I know. Her first name is Claire, something with McDonald, I think. It was something like that. Sorry, I also forgot her surname. But she's great. Yeah, she speaks about all the wars, you know, in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and how also about the COVID jabs. Everything is putting down very good speeches. And there's also a guy, also forgot his name. He has gray, half long hair. He's from Ireland as well. And he's also a very good speaker and, you know, taking them on. And recently there's a German one, Peter something. I also heard something from him, and he is going really against von der Leyen because they're both Germans, and it's also when you see it, it's very great. But yeah, okay. Actually, it's very sad, of course, that these people have to do this.
Now, I'll tell you what I guess is behind this. We recently had the New York Times, the definition of establishment media, the establishment paper in the U.S. The New York Times recently acknowledged, apparently, they didn't come quite out and say it, but they acknowledged that there had been Russian soldiers who'd been executed by Ukraine, right? They talked about that a few days ago and acknowledged that's a war crime.
Yeah, that's quite amazing.
And the other story that's out is the Russian missile story that was not a Russian missile, but was a Ukrainian missile. And everyone's admitted that. So I think they're trying to hide the fact that major news sources are admitting what Ukraine is up to. What do you think, Sonia?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it was amazing that this came out, you know, with the war crimes, because usually straight away they blame Russia for things, but this time it's the other way around. And I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, of course, because finally they admit that, you know, all these soldiers were just killed there. It was awful. And also with the missile of, the Ukrainian missile, that was a Russian missile, they said, in Poland. I think one at AP News is fired because he put on the story that it's actually a fake story. He just straight away said that, you know, it's Russia did it. So you see how the news is working. It's not news, it's propaganda. But maybe some of these news outlets, they don't have even control about it, you know, the politicians, because they want a good story. So I think that's somehow the reason. And I think it was too dangerous for the US to say, you know, Russia did it. And actually, I think it was a false flag from Ukraine. But yeah, they missed this time. So unfortunately for Ukraine.
So you even had Elon Musk, the new owner of Twitter, talking about the Ukrainian missile landing in Poland in the open. Did you see that? Elon talking about that and saying basically that the AP got it wrong. And you're right, the AP fired one reporter, but they should have, you know, here's what I don't understand. Like the bondage child we were talking about before, a reporter at the AP cannot just put up the story on their own. There was an editor who approved that story, guaranteed. And no editor was fired that I saw. Sonia?
Yeah, sure. And I think it was a false flag. And, you know, the politicians and the deep state is always collaborating with the media. So it was just trying to put out a false flag, saying that Russia, you know, fired a missile. I don't know from which side it came, maybe Poland, because you know, Poland, it's the governments are totally crazy. They're right-wing, really extremists there. I know fascists they are. So I think it's a false flag that went wrong, and but it will not be the first one, and it was not the first one. So most likely we will see more of that, especially now that they say Russia is a terrorist state. So yeah, that makes me also a terrorist. Huh? I mean, I'm from Europe, so I'm here living in Moscow, and I'm, according to them now, supporting a terrorist state because I'm living here. Yeah, I'm a terrorist. Yeah, I was already on the list, as you said. So yeah, it's full out crazy, everything. Mm-hmm.
Now, how's the news being, I assume I know, but how's it being taken in Moscow? I assume they think this is absurd and they're reporting as such. Is that the case with Russian media, Sonia?
Yeah, sure. TASS News, RT, and even, you know, Maria Sarakova, she was there and she said that, yeah, well, what they did now, it's not, what she made of it, it's idiotic. I mean, this is what the people of the Parliament of Europe has become an idiotic system. It's full crazy because Russia, you know, in the past, was on the war on terror. They helped the US and they were collaborating with the EU. So they were trying to wipe out terrorists in Syria, ISIS, Daesh. So how can you say Russia is a terrorist state? And also I heard some rumors that they are now trying also abroad to do a regime change and that they also have a parliament, an alternative Russian parliament abroad. I don't know if it's just rumors or they're really trying to do so because, you know, a lot of it is propaganda in a war. But yeah, this is actually terrible if you think about it. I mean, there are 146 million Russians here and we are all terrorists now. We are all part of a terrorist state. I mean, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Now, so I'd seen recently that in Kherson region, where the Russians pulled out recently, apparently the Ukrainians are having trouble with Kherson. Apparently, the Ukrainians are telling people to evacuate. What do you know about that, Sonia?
Yeah, first of all, I think when the Ukrainians came in, a lot of people were evacuated already. You know, Russia made a big campaign before they said, yeah, okay, we withdraw him. So a lot of, I think, I don't know how many, but most likely 30, 40,000, maybe 100,000. I don't know. I don't have any numbers on that. But a lot of the people already went out. So I don't know, but a few thousand maybe left. And they are collaborating with the Ukrainians. But also I saw some videos, pictures, and I heard from people that there were some Russian people, Russian-speaking people, still left behind. They wanted to stay. Majority maybe old people, but also younger people. They got tortured straight away because we saw all the pictures. They were binded on poles, blindfolded. So you know they're very terrible. And when we saw also pictures or a small video, I saw that the people were on the square, the city square. And the Western media straight away said, oh, look, the people are rejoicing. They are free finally from the Russians. But if you really look good at this picture, it was a handful, maybe 50 or 100 people. And half of it was for somehow a militia or maybe the Ukrainian army. So actually, it's nothing. And as I said, the majority has fled, not fled, they're decently evacuated by the Russian army. And that was a very good thing. And now it's in the media that, yeah, of course, Russia is it's spreading missiles everywhere. Half of, I think the whole of Ukraine is without power. Even Moldova is without power. So they have to flee. They said, Zelensky said, we have to flee. So where do they go? Yeah, to the west, of course. So another 2 million going to the west.
Now, speaking of war crimes, I have seen some footage from Kherson of people being taped to poles. You know what I'm talking about. They take collaborators. Is that not a war crime, Sonia?
Yes, of course it's a war crime, and the West ignores it until now with the you know the Russian soldiers. But these are war crimes, and these war crimes happened a lot, like also in Mariupol where I was, in Volnovakha, everywhere it happened. The West is not looking at it. You know, I think now what they did now to Russia, to the people, to the politicians here, to everybody, is they cut off Europe from Russia because this is gone too far. You know, this is not, it's really a war now, but not from the Russian side, it's from the European side, and they ignore all the war crimes. It's when you look at their press, what they call press, it's horrible what is there. It's only about Russia is bad. And remember that incident from a lady from, where was she from? The UN humanitarian, yeah, it was from human rights. This Indian lady was saying that the Russian soldiers got Viagra so they can rape all the women there. No, I mean, it's crazy. They are crazy. I don't know what they take, but sometimes I think they're all on drugs, you know, if they hear them speak, really.
No, it's very weird how it seems to be the opposite. And I'll mention, we've had these mass shootings here. And it's recently come out that the guy who did, I didn't mean to misgender him. I did again, Rod, sorry. But the person who did the mass shooting was non-binary. And but initially they tried to blame Lauren Boebert and Republicans. And so they seem to blame the opposite of who did it. And it seems to be a worldwide phenomenon. Now, let me ask you about that in general. Do you have any pronouns that you use in Moscow? Did they deal with that BS at all? You know, do you see anyone in Russia go, my pronoun is this or that? Or do they not play that game at all?
No, just recently, I think today it was, the Duma just signed a bill that it's prohibited to spread any information, any pictures, any videos about, you know, LGBTH and the whole alphabet. So it's not allowed here. The Russian Federation is promoting normal relationships. And even they are very, and I think that's a very good thing about pedophilia. You know, that's also it's strictly forbidden. So you can get fines, people who do that here, and so on. So no, you don't see it. You're just normal man and a woman, and you are on the street, in the shop, and that's how it is here. And I must say it's quite good compared to what is going on in Europe, like now with the football. I don't know if the soccer, I don't know if you're following this, they become crazy as well. I think in all areas of life, they become totally obsessed and crazy, because the soccer teams, now they had a band and with one love, and they had to, they want to wear it on the soccer field, but it was not allowed from FIFA. And of course, Qatar is an Islamic country, that's also not allowed there. So they make a fuss out of it. I mean, it's I don't know what is it's gone into these people. I think it's Agenda 2030 is now in full swing.
And so we have a clip actually that talks about that with the World Cup. Let's play Russell Brand. This is comedian and political commentator Russell Brand talking about, I think, taking a very common sense approach about countries that had the World Cup and they try to use it for political purposes. So hit it.
When it comes to the Qatar World Cup, when we talk about colonialism, imperialism, workers' rights, the value of human life, corruption, sports washing, all really important subjects. But the World Cup has, in a sense, lost its way some time ago. In 2018, it was held in Russia, and probably every country it's been held in since its inauguration has questions unanswered about its regime. What nation has a history unblemished? How do you build power? How do you create a centralized state without a degree of tyranny, oppression, control of a narrative, imprisonment of dissidents? And I think what's important right now is that the world appears to be moving in the direction of more centralized power. You have overt announcements from people like Macron about the dangers of a multipolar or even a bipolar world.
We need a single global order.
You want one solitary power. They explicitly and overtly say we want a global order where we have the ability to surveil a population. You could forgive the people of Qatar for saying, well, look, we've got our own narrative, we've got our own story, we've got our own history. What is it in particular about Qatar exploitation of human rights? Because if you think, well, let's just take one issue, LGBTQ plus issues, well, where were our Western societies 50 years ago or 60 years ago? Can you not envisage a society 5, 10, 20, 30 years more advanced than us come in and discerning and purveying our cultures and saying, hey, what's the story with the inequality? What's the story with the homelessness? What I suppose this argument returns us to is a morality that is about what you are willing to sacrifice, what you are willing to change in yourself, not how long and hard you're willing to point at other people saying, why don't you change this? Why don't you change that? It has to ultimately be, I am going to practice these principles in my life. I am going to be fair. I am going to be just. I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, and I'm going to oppose the things that I oppose vociferously and steadfastly.
So there's Russell Brand, Sonia. So any comments on that?
Well, it's great. It's really great. It's exactly what is going on, you know. They want still a unipolar world. It's what he's mentioning. And, you know, President Putin here and other people are stating that the world is now a multipolar world. So that means there are sovereign states who decide for themselves. Now, that is what is Qatar, of course. Qatar is an Islamic country. So they have their own, their own ideology, how to treat it, how to treat that. And there comes Europe and wants to tell them, yes, but you know, you have to wear this band and we have one love here and blah, blah, blah. So this is arrogance of Europe. It's new imperialism from Europe. They still think they are the masters of the world. They are not. I mean, we have a lot of countries. And if you really look good at who is supporting Russia, who is against, it's the West who is against, and the rest of the world is some countries are maybe neutral, but a lot of them support Russia. So, I mean, yeah, he's right about that. And there's a big arrogance here, not here in the Western world, that they want this one world government. You heard about that too. He mentioned that too, Russell. And You know, it's plain arrogancy. It's colonialism. They think they're still in this period, even though they are advanced maybe in technological things. But yeah, this is. It was very funny how he said it. It was really good.
Yeah, so I'll use your Dutch and I'll use Holland as an example. So, you know, his point about, look, any country you pick is going to have some things in its past. The Dutch were a colonial power, right? Holland was a colonial nation. And people forget this but New York was originally New Amsterdam because the Dutch colonized America. But aside from that, the Dutch colonized all kinds of countries, and they're different countries. You can see that in Amsterdam with the food, because the Dutch colonized Indonesia, so there's a lot of Indonesian restaurants, for instance, or Argentinian steakhouses and stuff like that. Now, in terms of history and being a colonial power, also, by the way, I should point out, am I correct that since we're talking about the World Cup, the Dutch are really football mad? They're big football fans and really get into the World Cup. I read a book called Brilliant Orange, and I used to own an Ajax shirt, actually. But the Dutch are huge World Cup fans and have a history of colonialism. Did I say anything wrong there, Sonia?
Yeah, no, it's correct. I mean, the Netherlands had a colony in Indonesia, that's correct, for 300 years. And I think a lot of Dutch people, including myself, have some Indonesian relatives somehow, or family. So then they occupied Suriname, I think 100 years. They still are the kingdom of the Netherlands still owns, they can say, the ABC Islands, Aruba, Curaçao, Maruba, Bonaire, Curaçao, still part of the Dutch kingdom. So no, it's correct. And when you walk through Amsterdam, yeah, you see a lot of people from foreign countries, like the Suriname. I was used to, when I was a child already, to a lot of people from Indonesia, from Suriname. So that's correct. And also, yes, they are crazy about soccer, like the Germans as well. The Germans and the Dutch were always rivals, you know, at the European games or whatever. But now it's like the Eurovision Song Contest. It became ridiculous, actually, because it has nothing to do with sport anymore. Yeah, maybe, okay, they play, but it's became politicized, you know, like with the One Love band. Russia is not allowed to compete in any sport anymore. They are banned everywhere. I mean, this is not the intention of sport. Sport is supposed to be for the people who do sports, and that's it. But this world, as I said, it's gone crazy in the West. Everything is politicized. But I remember 10 years ago, if you asked people in the Netherlands about about politics, okay, yeah, that's in Den Haag, and okay, when I will go and vote, but people had a totally different attitude about it. And it's really sad that Europe has, you know, it's become this way, especially the Netherlands, the most freest country in Europe it was. And now look at it, it's sad, it's really sad.
Now, let me ask you, a Dutch guy told me a few decades ago, I was over there, and he was trying to explain the Dutch. And do you agree with this definition? He said, the Dutch are like the Germans without a stick up their butt. Do you agree with that, Sonia?
Yeah, it could be. Maybe it's still a bit different. Yeah, it's pretty, it says about it. And I mean, the
Dutch are more easygoing than the Germans.
Yeah, it's what the Germans say, we are more locker. That's the word in German, they always call us that. And I remember when I was young, my grandmother always used to hate the Germans because of what they have done in World War II. But after, when I was a bit older, then it was okay. The Germans and the Dutch get along, but we always say in the Netherlands, the Germans don't have any humor. You know, they can't laugh. So, but actually we look a lot like each other, maybe, because the Germans also suffered, of course. But yeah, I think the Dutch suffered
Now,
more under
what's
the
happening-
Germans. Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the latest on protests in the Netherlands? Because we talked about it before. There were the farmers' protests, but they weren't getting any media coverage. So I don't know what's going on. Are the Dutch continuing to protest against the New World Order, Sonia?
Yes, they still do. They still, I see videos that, for instance, this weekend, a lot of trucks and yeah, a lot of trucks went to Zwolle, that's in Overijssel, in the eastern part of the Netherlands, to demonstrate. There was a city in the north, Drachten. Also, oil farmers went there and they blocked the whole city. So they still do it, but it's not mentioned what you said in the mainstream media. It's the same with Germany. In Germany, every evening the people are walking in every city, every small town, protesting against, yeah, the new world order, we can say. But the regular media, it's not covering anything about it. But the Netherlands is quite advanced, you know, in the new world order, or the Great Reset, how do you want to call it? They are, because they are a very small country, so they can try everything out there now. It's like a laboratory for the new world order, or the World Economic Forum, I should say. So they're already experimenting with this, yeah, vegetarian meat, and so on.
Now, you're in Moscow currently. When you go to the store to buy food or that kind of thing, what effect are you seeing on the Russian economy due to the conflict with Ukraine? Are you seeing stores out of things, or is everything normal in terms of shopping, Sonia?
No, I mean, I went to the supermarket even today, and it's all normal. You see all the products I used to buy here from the beginning is still there. So I don't see any difference. Maybe the Western stuff is a little bit less, or some things are out, but yeah, it's normal. It's no, I don't see any difference as when I came here. Yeah, that was in March, so it's just about the same.
Now, I'm curious, does Moscow have any kind of outdoor markets? Like, I'm thinking in Amsterdam, I used to rent a flat near the Noordermarkt, and you know that, of course. But there's in Amsterdam, there's all kinds of outdoor markets, small stalls, right?
Mm-hmm.
All over the city.
No, that's
Is that
not
kind of thing is just in Moscow?
No, that's not so popular here. You have maybe small ones, but no, it's usually inside. Maybe it's because of the climate. I don't know about that. But, you know, you must not forget the Netherlands is a trade country. So, you know, during history, you can see that we are trading a lot. You know, we had the East India Company, unfortunately. But okay, we are trading and trading, we're selling and buying. And so the market, it's already centuries, it's a phenomenon in the Netherlands. Everywhere you can see a market, a braderie we call it. And here it's not so popular. No, I didn't see it.
So yeah, I'm just curious because I've never been to Moscow. But Sonia, we're going to go because we got a lot of stuff to cover here in the U.S. But thanks so much for your report, Sonia Van End, and stay safe over there. Okay.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks. Nice speaking to you again. Bye.